So it's great to see everybody. And this is a serious meeting that is based on our observation that sometimes you read a wonderful paper, but then you see it presented and you say to yourself, well, the author could have made better use of their time, and the idea did not come through as well as it could have come through, and it's such a shame. So out of that came the idea to create a series of events in ASCOLA in order to address this. And so we have planned 3 different events. The first, the opening one, is with Professor Eldar Haber, which I'm going to introduce in a minute. And Eldar is a uniquely talented and gifted presenter, not only writer. So he has wonderful papers, but also wonderful presentations. The second event is going to be in the form of a roundtable, also in Zoom. And that's going to be in April. And I will send you all the details. And then we're going to interview people who have some experience from our community with regard to the do's and don'ts of how to give a good presentation. And the third part of it is going to be in the annual ASCOLA conference, which will take place June 30th to July 2nd. And then we will set aside some time in order to give each other feedback on the presentations, because we usually give feedback not on the presentation, but the paper. But here we want to give and to put a bit more time aside so that people could then learn how to make better presentations. So that's a bit of a hands-on, if you'd like. So let me start this series by introducing Professor Haber. He's a professor at the University of Haifa in my law school. He's also a member of the Haifa Center for Law and Technology and the Center for Cyber Law and Policy. And he was also a fellow and faculty associate at the Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society at Harvard University. And he writes about law and technology, many facets of this. Incredible work, very fascinating, very innovative. He published in various flagship law reviews worldwide, and he's the author of the book Criminal Copyright by Cambridge University Press. He won several prizes for his work, and he's here today because, as I said, he is also an incredibly gifted presenter. So Eldar, floor is yours.
Thank you, Michal. You're too kind with your introduction, but I'm not sure about my qualification about being a very good presenter, but I'll try. So I'll show you, first of all, I'll make a short introduction about things that I want to talk about today, and I'll give you my 2 cents about how I think that people should make better use of technology and their skills to actually show what they know and not just on the writing. So just generally, first of all, we have to differentiate when we talk with this new pandemic that we have. It's not new anymore, but with the pandemic, we moved to Zoom, and now we have 2 different types of workshops and conferences, and we have to bear in mind that I don't know if, we'll go back, and we're going back to real workshops, like in-person workshops. But at the same time, I think that Zoom or any other form of this online presentation will also resume. So we have to know that there are differences between presenting here and presenting offline. So I do want to say a few words about presenting online. So right now I'm the only one with a camera, and that's fine on, but do look at the way that you are looked at when you're presenting. So just to exemplify, right now, I'm pretty clear. You can see from, if you have a good internet connection, you'll see that my face is pretty clear, and my background is, obviously it's not my real house, but I will try to use these things that I have a very good camera that I purchased for these types of meetings, and I will always use good lightings and a very good environment to that, because it makes a difference how you look at when you're presenting in conferences or workshops or anything basically online. So I do think that it's very important to invest, even it's not a lot of money often, just to buy a better camera or a better mic, etc., to get better presented. That's the first thing. So, but when we go from the online world and we want to talk about discussing presentation in general, I'm going to use a technology that some of you might know, some of you might know less. I think that often when we go to conferences, everyone or almost everyone are using some form of presentation tool. So it's often PowerPoint, because we were very well accustomed to it, I think, and because we're used to it, etc. But there are other tools, and Prezi is not the only one. And just to clarify, I don't get any money from Prezi. I think it's a Hungarian company, I think. I don't even know. But I do like their this type of presentation, which I will show briefly. And I will talk about presenting through it, and then we can also, I will briefly show maybe how to use it, and then we can, you can ask questions, we can talk about it, this software in particular, or if you want to talk about presenting in general, we can talk about it. I would love to learn from you as well. So generally, what we want to do here, what I want to do is to show you a presentation in the form of a Prezi. And within it, I want to discuss how I see a good presentation when I go to conferences. So it's like the do's and don'ts. This is Prezi, by the way, but this is not what I want to show you. I want to show you a specific Prezi, which is, wait, this one. So you can see my application, right? I presume that everything is fine. If not, you can tell me in the chat. So the conversation here is how to turn a good paper into a good presentation. And this is actually a challenging work, because think about the conferences that you went to in your life. Every time that you go, basically you'll see the same presentations over and over again, the same kind of methods by which there are a lot of things there that people, which are amazing writers. And when you read the paper, you see they're amazing scholars. But when I was at the conference or the workshop, I didn't know that. It takes time and it takes preparation. So this is the things that we have to work when we think about presenting our work, because it's not enough to be a good writer. And when you start a presentation, what I would say that you need to do first, and this is using Prezi, so you can now see how it works in the sense of zooming in. So now we're zooming in into the presentation while I talk. So it zooms into the first question, which I think the first thing you should do is you should briefly introduce yourself and be kind to your host. So basically, that's just a sentence or two. You will be introduced most of the time, like I was introduced by Michal, but I will always say thank you. And I might add up something which is not in my formal background. So I want to try to break the ice a little bit, just for me as a presenter and for the audience as well, because you are stressed when you start talking. I'm always stressed. It doesn't matter how much I talk, the first few seconds are stressful, and you want to be more yourself. So try to start with like a nice thing to say, like if you're invited to, I don't know, to Brazil, to Rio de Janeiro, and you have a conference there, and it's an amazing day out there. So start by saying, oh, I know that everyone here wants to go out to the beach and have like a nice day out at the beautiful Ipanema beach, I would say. But just bear with me for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and I'm going to talk to you about whatever I'm passionate about, and be passionate about it, because it's your work if you want to present. And then it breaks the ice a little bit, and you can go and go straight to the thing that you want to talk about. And here, I would always advise starting with an example, a story. If you start by talking about, I don't know, the law and things that are not what we are doing every day, not what everyone in the audience is doing every day, you are just leaving them out of the story. You don't want them to zone out of your presentation in the first minute. You want them to be engaged. You want them to understand quickly what you're talking about. So tell them the story. So just to exemplify, if I want to talk about the right to be forgotten in the EU, I won't start saying something very, very generic about the right to be forgotten, or go to the directive or the regulation, or because that zones everyone out. I would start with the story where it all started. I would go to, this is Mario Costeja Gonzalez. He's an advocate. He's a Spanish advocate. And he was bankrupt in 1998. And in 2008, when he wanted to actually, when he searched his name on Google, he found out that these stories about him being bankrupt 10 years ago are still there, are still the first results that someone would get when someone is searching for his name. So he went to court, and then you can tell the story about how the right to be forgotten was formulated. The story is very good. It doesn't have to be a real story. It could start with, imagine that, and tell the story of the legal problem or the economic problem. It doesn't really matter. The problem that you're trying to discuss in your paper that you've got to talk about. First, try to frame it, because it will be easily understandable later in your presentation. But then you have to also, after telling the story, you have to keep in mind that your presentation has to be, it cannot be overloaded with information. This is one of the biggest mistakes I always see in presentations, or I sometimes see, that we have a presentation by which so much data is on the screen. And when you're talking, let's say we're in the right to be forgotten, and you want to talk to me about this right, the right of erasure to exemplify. So a lot of people would just post, okay, this is Article 17 of the GDPR, the right of erasure or right to be forgotten. And then, so at this point, if you have this on the screen, everyone will start reading it and they will zone out from you. You are not the center anymore. And you don't want them to read this, because this is just data that you can convey in a much, much simpler way. This is not why you're presenting. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to have all this data. There's a lot of different rules about these types of things, that you can't have too much words, etc. But just never have so much data on the screen, because it never helps you. I try to be more focused, and I often don't even write any word. I will only use photographs, so images like GDPR. I'll just place a GDPR, the right of erasure. I know what I want to talk about. I've researched it for such a long time. Just put it at that. Everyone will be still focused on you when you talk. So you don't have to actually put all this information. And if you are concerned, if you do want to have data points, that's okay, but don't do it all together. So if you want to talk about the GDPR, for example, you want to talk about the different rights that are conveyed under the GDPR or protected under the GDPR, don't have all of them at one time, because once again, everyone will come to the screen, will see the screen, and will try to read them one by one, and you're out of the picture again. So what I would do, it's really important for you to actually discuss every right, every 7 rights that are listed here. Just use a presentation by which you are easily, or you're one step at a time, you're conveying and showing everyone which right you want to discuss. So if you want to discuss the right to be informed, start with that, and then add up the right to access, etc., all the other rights. So just give bits of information every time that you talk about something. Don't give all the data all the time. The simplicity here is very, very important. So this is one of the main things that I have to say about presentations in general. Keep it simple. Keep it as simple as you can. If you're going to rush into 40 or 50 different slides when you have 20 minutes to talk, you won't have time. You always think, I don't know you, but I always think that, oh, what 20 minutes is a long time. What will I have to discuss? But 20 minutes is nothing. It runs over so quickly, and then you rush into saying the things that you really want to say because you gave so much explanations at the beginning. Keep it simple. You don't have to say everything you know about the topic. Everyone knows that you're an expert at the topic, and I'll get back to that in a few seconds. You don't have to explain everything. Just make it simple. Make it that people will easily understand. Some of them might be very, very into your field. Some of them might be a little bit peripheral to your field. That's important. So bring the ones that are not really in the center of your field, but you don't have to overload it with details to that extent. But don't be too boring as well. Try to make it interesting. That's important. It's interesting for you. Sometimes it's not even that interesting for you because maybe this is something you presented like in the last year or so. So maybe you're bored of it, but people hear it for the first time. So try to make it interesting. Try to show that you're interested in that and that the topic is very important, because this is part of the deal of being a good presenter. You want to be remembered and you want the topic to be remembered as well. Try to have examples, try to have real life examples. Try to be engaged with the audience. Try to look at, engage, I don't mean that you have to ask them questions, or you can do that, but I think it's less common in academic. But you can look at everyone, look at them in the eye, try to find the audience, and that will happen more and more quickly when you have more experience in presenting. So there are a lot of types of presentations, and I assume that you will talk about more of them, especially when you have these types of meetings and you have more of these. There's a lot of examples of making the presentation itself more dynamic. So one of them would be that when you say a word, it will actually appear on the screen when you say it. And that brings a lot of attention to you. And there's a lot of people who used it. I know that Professor Larry Lessig used to do it for years. Just have one word on the screen that changes all the time. That's a very good way to get attention as well. If you can do that, you have to master it though. But if you can do that, that's a very good way of presenting. But you should find your own voice in that. You should find the way that you like to present. Whatever is good for you, works for you, will also work for other people as well. Just bear in mind that, and we'll talk about it in a second, that the uniqueness, and we are all unique, but your uniqueness will actually be only exemplified in this workshop or conference through the presentation that you'll give. So try to be as unique as you can. If everyone is using PowerPoint, use something else. Maybe use Prezi, maybe use another application, maybe use PowerPoint, but do it in a different way that everyone does. Because remember, these conferences and workshops that you might be there for a day or 2 or 3, and for long hours of the day, and you're tired, and this is the 37th presentation you're hearing from someone, and yes, maybe it's interesting, but if it's not very, very unique, and if you're not very well engaged, then there's no way that it will be interesting for anyone, because we get tired and it all sounds like the same thing more and more. And then we should have to try to find ways to be more unique to that extent. And even using a different tool might actually be beneficial for us. So you can use a different tool like Prezi, and I will play with it a little bit after this short talk, and you should play with it as well. So take the time, take this new thing that you're trying to experiment with, and there's so many things you can do with this tool. It's not just a simple presentation. You can look at other people's presentations around the world. They're sharing it. So you can look at what other people are doing, maybe use the idea, maybe actually use a template, a different template that most people use through this application, through the software, and you can actually achieve a lot by doing a different thing and play with it more. One of I think the most important things about a good presentation is practicing. And like everything in life, practicing makes it better. But it's super crucial to practice your presentation, even if you think, oh, I can't look at it anymore. I just want to get it done. And I will say something about that in a second. Don't do that. I mean, you have to practice to perfection when you are presenting. So first of all, you have to be very prepared. Let's say you're going to a conference. And when you're going to a conference, you know that each participant has 20 minutes of talk. Okay, so you have 20 minutes to present your paper. Take a timer, and a few days before your arrival, start practicing. So you have the template, you have your Prezi or PowerPoint, whatever you're using, and run the clock. And the first time will be awkward. Yes, you're doing it by yourself. And I think that I suspect that most of you would do that anyhow. You'll practice once, maybe twice. I would do that much more if you want to make it perfect. I would do that much more because, first of all, it eases much of the stress that we have while presenting. Because if we've done it so much, it becomes automated. And when it becomes automatic for us, we can have fun while presenting because it's nothing. This is the 11th time I'm doing this presentation. I know what I'm about to say. I know what this next slide is about. I know every little bit of detail of the talk, and I know the paper which I've written. So from now on, I'm just cruising. So if you practice and when you do it well, in the sense that if I know that my next slide to that extent will be remember to have fun. Okay, so I know what I'm about to say. I don't need it like a new, very sophisticated tool to do that. Then I will know how to connect my next sentence with it. But I'm still in practice, because practice makes perfect. So I know that it's exhausting to do that. I know that we don't have time, and we are academics, and there's a lot of things to do when we want to write, and it sounds like a waste of time, but I think it's the opposite. It's not a waste of time at all. I think that practice is one of the most important things before going to a workshop or conference. And I think that it's also important to do that not just at home, also at night before a presentation, whether you're at the hotel right now or your house, doesn't matter. Or if you're presenting in the afternoon, do it in the morning of your presentation. Do it once, from the beginning to the end, and time it. And while you're presenting, time it as well. Don't let someone else hold a sign you have 5 minutes. That's not good for you. That's my opinion, at least. So I always keep a clock. I always keep a timer for 20 minutes. And the second that I start a presentation, I put the timer. I want to look at it because I want to know where I'm at the presentation. And I practice 11 times, so I know where I'm at. I want to know how much time I have. I don't want to rush through whatever I have and then say the important thing in the last minute of the presentation because everyone wants to go to lunch. I don't want to do that. I want to end, I want to finish exactly after 20 minutes. I can spare 10 seconds, but not more than that. So if you practice and if you time it, there won't be a problem to that extent, especially if the Q&A is after the session. So remember to have fun. And what do I mean by that? I mean that, yes, I know that it could be stress. It could be stressful, and it is. It could be stressful after 30 years of presenting. Sometimes it doesn't change, but I remember the first time I presented outside of Israel. I was a master's student still, and I went to the United States for the first time presenting in a conference there. It was in American University. I remember that I was invited. I was so stressed that I didn't remember to have fun. I just wanted it to end. I remember I was just like, oh, I just want to say my things. I don't want anyone to ask me questions. I know nothing. All these people are like highly distinguished professors from around the world, and who am I? And I just didn't want anything to do with that. So I was a month later at Berkeley, and I gave this similar talk to a wider audience. And I remember that it wasn't too bad because I've already practiced, and I've already practiced it in front of an audience. And I remember that, whoa, that wasn't so bad, right? So we all have done that. We all presented. This is not the first time, I assume, for anyone here. But if it is, remember that it's eventually that we get less scared from presenting. And I think that part of it is, well, this is my job. This is our jobs. I mean, being an academic, to present these types of things, our work, that's the best part of it, isn't it? I mean, we're traveling around the world, we're meeting amazing people, and we actually get people to sit in a room and listen to whatever we're enthusiastic about. Remember that you are the one who is enthusiastic about it. And this is also a crucial thing to remember, because many of us, and I can say that I'm one of those many, have this imposter syndrome. And the imposter syndrome is something which I would say that I will always have that, to some extent at least, that you walk into the room and you feel like, oh, just a second from now, everyone will discover that I'm an imposter, and that's about it. And I know nothing, but you know a lot. Remember that you are the expert in your field. You are the one who knows probably the most about this topic than anyone sitting in the room, and it doesn't matter where she or he is from and what their titles are. You are the one who spent all this time and effort researching this thing that you're researching about. So just take a deep breath, understand that no one is an imposter. No one here tries to fail you in these workshops and conferences. Everyone here are here basically to have fun, to get knowledge, to exchange ideas, to meet interesting people. So they might ask a question, but most of them would be because they're really interested, because they really want to know something about the work that you've just presented. It's not about failing you or doing any other things like that. So one of the things in the imposter syndrome, I would say that we always, or I always, we're afraid to make mistakes. We're afraid to be wrong. You have to remember that nobody's perfect. And your paper is not perfect. It will never be perfect because it's pretty impossible to write a perfect paper that everyone will say that's amazing. Wow, there's no flaws in it. There's a lot of flaws in every research. And it's sometimes there are more flaws, sometimes there are less flaws, but it's very, very good to discover these flaws at these stages when you're presenting something which wasn't published yet. And I think this is a very important thing to present papers while they're not published, but sometimes we do that. Sometimes we also present papers after they're published. That's also fine. And there's not much to do there in the paper itself. But if someone will pinpoint something which is important for you, you might say, okay, that's crucial. Probably this is not the last time I'm going to deal with this topic. Maybe there's something which I could have done better in the last article. I'll make it better next time. But yes, that's not perfect. The one who asked you the question is not perfect. Their research is not perfect as well. You're only trying to do your best to that extent in your work to be the best scientist you can to that extent. And you're trying to convey the message as well while presenting it. So the presentation itself is also a tool that you have to remember that nobody's perfect and your presentation won't be perfect, and that's also fine. But if you'll try to have fun with it, if you'll practice it, if you'll time it, if you'll make it interesting and not boring, if you do all these things, then you have a very, very good chance at having a very, very successful presentation that will actually give people or lead them to actually read the paper. And this is the last thing I would have to say in this respect, and then we can open it for Q&A, and then I can show you a little bit also about the actual use of Prezi if you want to see. So one of the things that I have to say, and I will zoom out, and you're more than welcome to open your cameras if you want to, also that I can see your faces. So one of the things that, hi Mary, this is one of the things that I have to say about the paper, that is you have to remember that you don't have to put all the paper into the presentation. So sometimes we are really working hard to try to make all the details, and we wrote about that. We have to put that in, as well in the presentation, because you don't have to. People will read your paper if they're interested. It's often you will post it on SSRN, or it will be divulged between the participants of the workshop or the conference. If someone is interested, they will read. Give the things that matter. So give the background that matters. Give the thing that is important for you, for other people to see. What's your new theory? What's your outcome? Whatever you want to show. And if it's very statistical, once again, try not to put like all these statistics that maybe only a few people understand in the audience, unless it's a very statistical audience, and that's fine. Try to use very, very comprehensible statistics or math or whatever you're using when you're using numbers. Don't place all these numbers on the screen that sometimes people just get confused and, okay, I don't understand the outcomes of this research. Try to make it into words. Try to make it more accessible for those who might not be very well, let's say, very well familiar with statistics or math to that extent. And that goes for every type of presentation we're trying to make. So we often think, and I know that as a teacher, that you also probably know that sometimes you think that everyone, like, it's silly what I'm teaching you because everyone knows that, or everything seems for us like, oh, that's something that everyone would know. Sometimes not everyone knows what you're knowing, and your knowledge is different from the audience, and some might know the things that you're talking about. So let's just say I'm talking about privacy right now. Okay, so for me to talk about privacy that's easy. Everyone knows what privacy is. Everyone knows where it's protected, under which, I don't know, so it's laws or directives or constitution. I know that's like silly. Let's just move on. But it doesn't work like that. If I have a paper on privacy, I have to give some background. Some people don't know how what privacy is. Some people don't know under which law it's protected. So I would give just 1 minute of, okay, just FYI, privacy is this fundamental human right. It's protected under this and that, etc. And then you can go on to talk about specifically the topic that you want to talk about that relates to privacy. Otherwise, it's not very important. Other tips that I have. I think that it's important to try to have your own tools that you always bring from home. So let's say I have a clicker. Okay, so now you don't see it because of the background, but this is my clicker. Why I bring it everywhere? I teach with this clicker as well, because you go to a conference and then you say, oh, this is the clicker. Now I have no idea how to use this clicker, which is not a clicker. And then your presentation gets off and no, I just go and I say, no, I'm using mine. I know I will never get wrong with this. I'm so used to it. Use it. I also bring my computer, always. I had so many situations in which I went to big, huge conferences when you might think, oh, they have a computer, everything is fine there. And then I try to use my presentation and they say, oh, we don't know what Prezi is. I don't know if it works here. Let's try. And then it doesn't work. And then you're 2 minutes from your presentation. You're all stressed. And even if it works, at the end, that's it. You're done. You're stressed. You're sweating. It's not going to go well because you're not there anymore. So I would also be prepared. I always go to the conference. So I would go to the morning. In the morning, I would go to the room that I'm presenting and I will try it out. I will put my computer. I will look for a technician or some sort of help. I will try it out even if I'm presenting like 10 hours afterwards. I want to see that it works. I want to see that I'm fine. I want to see for myself that when I'll come 15 minutes before my talk, I'll be prepared and everything will work smoothly. Then the audience can come in or the workshop participants, but I'm there already. And I know that it works. That also works for internet connection, by the way, because Prezi, as an example, is something which works online. So you have to have an internet connection, but there's also desktop. So you can also have like a portable Prezi. You can download it. I always prefer the internet because it's something which goes smoother sometimes, but I will always bring with me a USB, a disk on key with the presentation, that if something goes wrong in the online, I always have the offline backup. So I'm never stressed about these things in general. So these are my 2 cents about the things that I think that are important as a presenter. And I would love to open it up for a discussion a little bit or like Q&A, but I'm not, as I said, I have a lot to learn and it's only from my own experience. I've never taken any classes in how to present. I wish I had, and if I heard about the workshop, so I wanted to ask Michal if I can join in here as well, because it sounds interesting, at least the one that is online. I don't know if I'll go abroad soon because I have some other engagements. Anyhow, I would love to open up the floor and hi everyone, and it's great being here, and let's talk about presenting. Okay, anyone questions, want to talk about it a little bit? Otherwise, hi, Mary.
Hi there, Eldar. That was terrific. One of the things, and thank you very much, I learned a lot. One of the things that I know that I struggle with when it's online is keeping my eyes in the right spot. Okay.
Yes,
because the camera's in your face compared to previously. And I'm so familiar with what I'm saying. I'm having a little look. And even if I'm not turning the head, there's a little bit of wandering going on. So what's your tip to keep your eye on the camera?
So I have, that's an excellent question. And I would say that, like, one of the things, like right now I'm talking to the camera. And the reason I'm talking to the camera is that I place here upon the computer, I have this arrow. So every time I have an important discussion, I just tape it with like a tape on the computer. I have like this arrow down that reminds me that I have to look at the camera, because if you don't look at the camera, it's not like I'm not looking at you directly. So it doesn't work all the time. Sometimes you'll stray away. It depends on the amount of time that you're going to talk. If you're having like an hour and a half, when I teach in Zoom, there's no way I can sit like this for an hour and a half. I think that's fine. That's why we also have the presentations themselves, that you can zoom out a little bit and they look at the presentations. But I would try to do that more when I'm doing this eye-to-eye contact, I would actually put the era and I would try to remember all the time to look at it. Victoria.
Yeah, hello. Thanks a lot for presentation and for sharing your hints about how to prepare it better. Yeah, I also had the same tip regarding having a sticker near your camera, so it reminds you where to look at, and also regarding other things, because in offline environments we can go to the room and check the room, but in online environments we don't have such things. So I'm using the standing table, and basically while I'm presenting, I usually prefer not to sit in front of the computer, but to stand in front of the computer. So helps me feel also.
Okay, so can you focus the question about what you're traveling in the online world?
Yeah, and my question would be regarding the preparation of your notes for presentation. Would it be more like writing full speech, bullet points, or no notes at all? Since, as you have told us, just try many times. Great.
So I think that's a very valid question. I think that's very important, and it very differentiates between people, because it really depends on how you normally prepare for these things and what are you presenting. So I would say one of these things. So let's say if I've just finished a research and this is a paper which I've just written, and I've spent like the last month or two just writing it, rewriting it. For me, this is a point when if I have to present it, I can present it when I'm asleep at night without even looking at the screen, because I'm so well into the research. But if you're like 6 months from writing the paper and you don't really remember, etc. So I would say that what I would do is I would take the article, I would break it down for the things as fit to the presentation, the main bullet points, which I know that I have trouble remembering. I will actually write it in a very large font, etc., and shorten it out. And I will take it with me. Like I will try to make it like 5-6 pages, not more, with like a huge font, and I will reread it. I will read it and read it and read it, but I won't bring that to my presentation. So this goes back to Prezi. I will to practice. I will never, and I've never done that. I will never bring notes to my talk. Because if I do bring notes to my to the talk, I know that I will look at them, and I don't want to be distracted. I want to make it. It's only 20 minutes. I want to make it like I'm in a show. Okay, I'm talking. I don't want to look at any papers because it will distract me, and then I will read off it, and that's not good. So the only thing, if there's one thing that let's say I don't really remember what article, I don't know, 17 says at the GDPR, I don't remember by heart, and it's really important for me, let's say, to exactly pinpoint to the whatever it says, then I will put it in a presentation. Although I said I don't like that and try not to make all these words into the presentation, but if it's just 2 sentences and you say, oh, I have to do that, and it's really hard for me to focus and remember it by heart, put that in the presentation and you will remember. And also remember that you have notes in these things. Also in Prezi and also in PowerPoint, you can have actually notes on the screen that only you will see. So if it's really important for you to have, but I'm only saying that for like a 1 sentence, 2 sentences, maybe a paragraph that it's very important for you to have that. But my advice, try not to have anything. Print it for yourself, reread it a lot of times. Go to the presentation when you have nothing but the computer. You will be much better off from having these papers and trying to, oh, I don't remember what I want to say. Don't worry about it. If you'll practice enough, that won't be a problem.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Zlatina.
Yes, thanks for your very insightful presentation. I actually wanted to deepen a bit on something you said in the beginning, which was, we present online and offline, and those are 2 very different things. And we already discussed the obvious difference in the eye contact that we need to make offline and online. But what other things in your experience are very important to pay attention to because of the difference of the online and offline environments? What would you underline, emphasize on?
Yes, that's an excellent question. So first of all, I would say, I think the first thing would be the background, as I said, and the lighting. That's very important. We can look at it right now as well. Try to compare how we all look, whoever has like a camera on, and you'll see differences. You'll see differences from in a lot of different respects. So one of the things that are said, first of all, the angle of the camera. Okay, so this is very crucial where we place the camera. If the camera is like this and I'm presenting, let's say, if my presentation goes like this is not very appealing, right? But if I go directly into it, I'll try to make it a bit more, as much as I can, that this is a, let's say I would go a TV show. Okay, so it's not a television show, but try to make it like that, because there's no other way. This is what we turn into in the sense of presenting. So this is the first thing. And I know that it's very technical, but it's these technicalities are actually important. So the second thing within the presentation is that you can use more technology. This is fun. So you're much more in control than in regular life. You can, you are much more, you're at your house. That's very convenient for you. You don't have all the stress that you often have while presenting like in a big audience for 300 people. So this is, I don't care, there could be like 2,000 people or 10, it doesn't matter for you. So try to take advantage of that in the sense that you can be relaxed a little bit more. You are very much in control of a lot of tools. So you can actually have like this, you can launch, I don't know, you can launch a poll, which doesn't have any, it's not a poll because I haven't prepared one, but you can launch a poll and use it to do all the things and have people more engaged. We will not want to do that right now, but if it's a very long talk, not 20 minutes, you can have a breakout room and all these things that are very, very good for tutorials, for teaching, etc. But also when you use the presentation, so Zoom is a very good example. I would say one of the things that I've done, and I haven't done it now, so I won't use that, is to use a green screen. And if you have one at home, if you don't have one, purchase one. So I have one. And when we started this pandemic 2 years ago, and I started using these presentations, one of the things that I wanted to do in Zoom was to use the advanced feature of slides as virtual background. So if you use slides as a virtual background, then you can actually have your head half on the screen and you can play with it and you can actually point to the things that you want. And that's amazing. I've done it a few times in conferences. That looks amazing. That changes everything. And all you have to make it good, to look good, you only have to have is a green screen, and you have to also practice it, as I said before. So take advantage of technology, take advantage of the things that are accessible to you and are not accessible in real conferences. And I think that's the main differences that I would see from the online and the offline, because I think that the content, it's pretty similar. So it's the article, it's the way you present it. It doesn't matter if it's online or offline. More questions or observations or? Okay, so I'll use this. If you have any more observations, we have some times. I will use this time to actually show you Prezi. I don't know if you've ever used Prezi. So just to show you how it works in general, it's not a tutorial of any kind, but that's just a second. I will go back. So this is Prezi. You can see Prezi right now, I can assume. So you can see I have all these like things that these categories. There's a lot of things here that you can do, which I'm not doing right now. You can actually make a video. You can actually record things within this software, which, by the way, it does cost money. I mean, you can have like a free, I think you can have a free license. They used to have it totally free. Now it costs some money. It's not a lot of money. It's a few dollars a month, I think, for the license. And then you can have like Prezi design, a lot of different things, but you have the Prezi present. So this is what I'm talking about right now. This is the thing that I've used. So let's say I'm using this presentation. Let's say I want to show you how you do it. It's very easy. It's very intuitive in the way that sometimes we're fearful to go to a new technology. So let's say this is you can see like a whiteboard. This is the way you looked at it. You look at the presentation, so you can write the title and write your name, or you can write whatever you want. You can see here that you can insert like text here and edit it. As you might see, I'll do it quickly, yes, but let's say you want to write the ear, I don't know what, you can just actually play with it and you can make it a different color and you can do whatever you want. It's pretty easy to that extent. And then you want another slide, right? And here you can play with Prezi because it goes by zooming in and zooming out. So if you want to say, I want to start with this and then I want to zoom in. So if I want to zoom in, I'll just zoom in and I'll create a zoom area. This will be the second slide. And here I can do whatever I want. I can place an image and I can upload it. I can choose, I don't know, something that they recommend. And then you have like the image that you want to discuss, and then you can like write the text that you want under it. And let's say you want to zoom in further. So I would zoom in and I will create another zoom area. So this would be another slide. And here I will put another thing. So I'm doing it quickly because I'm very well accustomed to this presentation, as generally this method. But just to show you how quickly you can actually do this thing. And here I'm zooming out just to show you where I went. And you can play with it, you can rotate it, you can do so many things. And one of the best things about these types of software, and I'm stop the sharing, is that you can actually use so many templates of people that are using it, and they share it. So you can actually use the template. You can use the templates that Prezi gives you, and there's many of them. And many of them are business-like, I would say. I don't use them. I rarely use any of them. I like to engage and start from scratch. But you can also actually use things that people have used if they give you permission for it. And if not, just use it as an idea that you can actually take and place it by yourself. I've seen so many types of, I would say, cool things that people have made with these types of presentations that make them more accessible, more fun, more enjoyable. And just think of yourself when you sit in a conference right now and everyone else has a PowerPoint after PowerPoint and it all looks the same. And then you have something different. It doesn't have to be Prezi, by the way. There are other applications which have emerged and are still emerging. So do something different. I remember the first time I've used Prezi was 2015, I think, in a conference. And I remember like 10 people afterwards came to me and said, wow, what was that? I've never seen that. Just regardless of the topic, regardless of the paper, that's cool. What did you do there? So it makes something a bit different. So, and I think that different is, to that extent, uniqueness is always good in a conference or a workshop, because there's so many people, so many talks, and so many papers. But remember the one that did the zooming and zoom out and the cool stuff, that's the one that I might remember from a talk. So you have to learn a little bit, but it will take you an hour, not more than that. An hour with playing with that, and they have a tutorial there how to do that. After an hour, you're an expert, and not less of an expert than someone like me who I do all my classes with Prezi since I've became accustomed to it, and it's so convenient, and you can embed videos into it, and you can do all these things that you can do in PowerPoint as well, but it works in a very convenient way. Questions or discussion, or if you want to ask something more. Michal, do you want to add some thoughts on presentations and tips? And
I thought that was brilliant, Eldar. So many wonderful tips. And I right now I don't have anything to add, because one of the reasons is because I want the audience to enjoy you more. So if you can actually show us 5 minutes of one of your presentations in Prezi, one of the ones that a presentation like a template that you would really recommend.
But I don't use templates. That's the thing. I always start from scratch.
Sorry, I mean one of your presentations that you really like. Okay, I think that would be even more helpful.
Okay, so I will search while Mary asks a question, and I will listen to that, and then I'll end up with like 3 minutes of the start of presentation. Mary.
Hello, I was just wondering, what's the etiquette around chat? That's one of the most disruptive parts of delivering your talk online, I find, is that the chat comes in and it develops. I mean, can you ignore that at the end of your presentation? Certainly wouldn't interrupt my presentation, or do you wait for the moderator? What do you guys see as the etiquette as to how to handle something that has galloped off while you're presenting your beautifully rehearsed and practiced piece?
Yeah. I think that's an excellent question. And I think that both in online and the offline world, but I would say as a disclaimer at the beginning, I would say, please, we will have a Q&A at the end. Please, unless there's something really, really important that you have to disrupt me because you didn't understand a specific point, let me have the 20 minutes and then I'll give you the stage and we can talk about whatever you didn't understand or whatever you wanted. So I would try to minimize. I mean, there's no way to say everyone, oh, you cannot ask me anything for 20 minutes, but try to be kind. I think that if you kindly ask, politely ask, please keep the questions to the end, then it will be fine. But I think as well, because I was asked a lot of time that at the midst of like this presentation, I was asked something. And I think that if you well rehearse it, then you can go back to the point, because you'll see the slide. This is the 12th time you've presented it, so that's a no-brainer for you, because it goes so smoothly to that extent. So I think that even if you're asked a question, you'll be okay at the end. I mean, you'll find a way back. So let me just quickly find let's say one. I'm trying to look at one of the presentations which might fit, just to show you how I do it generally. So just browsing through one of my presentations. Okay, so I'll show you one of them, for example. So just a second, I'll open up. I know that you don't see it yet. Okay, so let me show you. This is an article which I've written. It's called Racial Recognition, and it was just recently published in Cardozo Law Review. And I've just presented it, I mean, not such a while ago in Berlin in the Weizsäcker Institute, and I can show you now how it looks. So I will start with this. Okay, so this is the topic, my name. It is very crucial for me when I do this to write where it's published. I want people to be able to find it if they're interested. So I wrote like 43 Cardozo Law Review, and it was still forthcoming. Now it's already published. And I will always write the name and the date when I'm presenting. I think it's very important. I think it's also very, it's very dignifying for the place that you're presenting. So just to exemplify, this talk starts with criminal enforcement. And what I do is I talk about criminal enforcement, and I talk about the history of criminal enforcement. And within the article, I talk about the 5 different types of errors. So within the presentation, I will start by criminal enforcement has a history. It starts with the political era, which started roughly at 1840 to 1920, by which we've seen the invention of the nightstick and Colt multi-pistol gun. Then we move into the professional model era, by which we saw the invention of the polygraph and speed radar guns and computers and the start of biometrics. And then we went into, I'm doing it quickly just to show you more of the presentation. We went to the community policing era, by which we saw all these technologies, and the digital policing era, we saw these technologies. And then we might one day to go to an era of autonomous policing, by which we'll have robots, roaming the earth, et cetera, et cetera. But we're talking here about digital policing and biometrics, and within biometrics there are several types of biometrics. So just to exemplify, I just have a lot of these photographs, which you can see I don't have a lot of data. But here, when I see this picture, I know what the difference between authentication, verification, and identification means. And I can actually delve into that and tell them, you know what, this time we're going to talk about just one of them. And then when I see anti-terrorism and capitalism and an airplane, I know what I'm going to talk about, because I know in the article what stands here. And then you see like criminal law, that doesn't mean a lot, right? But it means a lot for me, because I already know what I want to say about when I see this specific photo. And then I go specifically into facial recognition, and I show how facial recognition works in the most mathematical way, because we actually try to pinpoint the distance and measure the distance between points in your face. So let's see how it works in general, like the distance between the eyes and the width of the nose, the depth of the eye sockets, et cetera, et cetera. And then I zoom out again to talk about other types of recognition technologies, like voice recognition or gait recognition. And I show them what goes on in China for gait recognition. And I show how it works generally in the math, or how the computer see and measures the distance between things to actually know who you are. And there's even things like tattoo recognition. So I'll stop here. Then I show them like whatever. Now, until now, I only had like the preview of the technology, and I just it took 5 minutes to bring them into the subject. And now I'm talking about the problem. Like this is from the Daily Mail saying that, oh, we now have like this facial recognition, new automatic software, and it is used by police forces around the world. And let's go to the FBI, and this is what they're doing. But then we have all these like companies who are working with the police, and I will show all the statistics regarding that, but shortly, and just whatever is published in the newspaper about it. And then I will go at the end, and now I go quickly to show the things that interest me in the research. So how are we regulating criminal recognition? So what are constitutional aspects? So I would briefly show like the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment and the 14th Amendment that relates to it, and I will talk about whatever. No, I'm not going to give you the entire talk about facial recognition, but this is just a gist of how I would present my paper, and I would try to make it as much as a story as I can. Think of it as like you have 20 minutes to tell your story. What is it? What is your story? It's not a paper, it's a story. The papers, they will read later. They will have time to actually engage with your scholarship. You're just telling them a story. If you're interesting enough, you might be read. And I think that's what we want to accomplish at the end.
Eldar, this was brilliant, really. This was wonderful, so incredibly helpful. Thank you so much. This, I think you would all agree, this is a great start to our series on the subject. And I hope that it gave you food for thought, or food for action, if you'd like, to create a better presentation. And so enjoy working, trying different technologies and Prezi and whatever. And thank you so much. And I hope we'll see you in a few minutes in the ASCOLA Nordics conference, whoever is interested. And all the others, we'll see you in April. Bye-bye.